Good evening from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to have a go at making a cola flavoured cider. So here's my key ingredients. The star of the show, it being cider, are apples, and in this case I'm using apple juice from concentrate, the turbo cider method. If you've not heard of turbo ciders, have a look on Facebook for turbo ciders for all. That'll give you a good idea. But it's basically using apple juice from concentrate instead of apples. It's just labour saving. My cola is coming from this Mr Freeze Jubbly 8 cola ice lollies, melted. I've just picked these up in the local supermarket, discount supermarket. I think I paid about £1.50 for this, so that's going to be quite nice to get some cola flavour in there. And note, it's made with fruit juice, there's no harmful additives. I'm using Cross My Loof cider yeast, which I find gives me some nice results with ciders. A bit of browing wine yeast nutrient. I've got 200 grams of sugar just to bump up the alcohol by volume a little bit. Some pectolase to aid clarity. A bit of spring water because I'm going to start off by making some tea with these 3 tea bags for tannins. So the tannins give the final cider a more rounded flavour, a bit more body, a nice mouthfeel really. So they're going in there. Yorkshire tea bags along with some Morrison's Yorkshire Vale spring water. Oh, just under half a litre. I don't need to put loads in. So then it's lid on, gas on and heat on. And I'm now going to leave that to make a lovely tea. And while I'm doing that, let's crack on with the turbo cider. So my fermentation vessel of choice today is the bog standard demijohn, or carboy to you Americans. This is a 1 gallon vessel, 8 pints, 4.54 litres. I've had this since the 1970s. It's a warhorse. So funnel goes in. So as this is a turbo cider, then this is the turbo. This is how fast it goes. I'm going to squeeze into this 3 of my 4 litres of apple juice. It's nice and easy. Let somebody do the hard work for you in terms of getting the juice out of the apples. So the tea's still on the pot, so let's get some Mr Jubbly Freeze Pops in there, or ice lollies, as we Brits actually call them. So that's what a Mr Jubbly Cola thing looks like. I've never seen these before in my life. But cut or tear here. Oh, it's already leaking out. And there we go. So that's like a... Yeah, it smells like very much like cola, so it's like a strong cola basically. So there are 8 of these in the box. I'm going to add 7 of them into here, and I'm going to save the 8th for when I bottle it, just to squirt in at the end as an extra little bit of cola flavour. Okay, so that's 7 out of 8 of the cola lollies in there. I'm going to keep this one, like I say, when I bottle. So just a quick tea update. You can see that that's now boiling, so I'm going to turn the heat right down to a simmer and just leave it for 2 minutes while I have a little tidy. Steamy. So I'm just lifting the tea bags out of here with a potato masher. And I've got a spoon on top. And I'm just going to give these a squeeze to get all those juices and tannins out of them. So there's my tea, and I'm now going to pour into this my brewing sugar, which is basically dextrose monohydrate. It's very fine, it dissolves really easily, and it will be completely dissolved in probably a minute or so in there. In fact, I'm just going to turn the heat off now because I don't need to leave the heat on, and I'm going to let that dissolve and cool. So back to the cider. I'm going to add a teaspoonful of pectolase. This will help it to clear in case there's any enzymes in there which cause a bit of cloudiness. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of the browing yeast nutrient, a nice heaped one there, to give it a feed. Okay, I've taken the tea off. I've let it cool down for 10 minutes. It's still a bit steamy, but to be honest, this is a warhorse. I know it can take the heat, and also I've also got more than 3 litres of apple juice in there, so it will protect it. So I'm not worried about adding a warm stroke hot liquid into this. So that's going to go straight through, and this is washing my filter through as well, getting the yeast nutrient out of it. So I'm just looking at my demijohn now, and there's not a lot of space in there. I don't think I want to open another litre of apple juice just to pour a little bit in, so I'm just going to top this up a little bit with spring water. So it's got 3 litres of apple juice in it. So I'm just going to pour the water in. And yes, please note, I'm overfilling my demijohn. I don't care. It'll be fine. I'm going to take some out to take the gravity, and that won't go back in. It'll be fine. So I'm just giving it a little mix around so that water that I put in at the end is mixed properly and isn't all at the top. I'm going to pour some out into my hydrometer tube. That's not going back in, and that also creates a little bit more headspace. Now this gravity needs to be taken at 20. It's currently over 20, I can tell by feeling it, so I'm going to put this in the fridge for half an hour and get on with the cider, and I'll take the gravity at the end. So I've just opened my Cross Maloof cider yeast, and I'm going to put half of this packet in there. I don't need to put the full packet in. It does up to 10 litres. There's probably the equivalent of a reasonably heaped teaspoon got in there. That's enough. It multiplies anyway. So the yeast is currently sat on the top, so what I want to do is just give it a little shake around so it sinks. Now this is warm, it's very sweet, there's nutrient in there. This yeast is going to have a jolly good time. The yeast will eat the sugar, it will create the alcohol, it will create CO2, and that's what's going to make my cider. So I'll just give my sink a little rinse. Rinse the outside of the demijohn because it's got sticky on it. Lovely jubbly. So I'm going to pop the airlock in the top. That's got water in it. And when this starts to produce CO2, the airlock will start to pop. So we'll have a little update when that's started. But I need to put this in the fridge now, and then I'll be back to you with the gravity shortly. I'm back. 25 minutes has passed. Shower, change your t-shirt, freshen up, but more importantly, what I've got here in the hydrometer tube is now ready. It's at the right temperature, it's at 20 degrees, so I can now take the original gravity, or the starting gravity, whatever you want to call it. So in goes the hydrometer. And I am on a starting gravity of 1.054, 1054. Cheers, folks. That is lovely. It does taste like apple coke, which is weird, isn't it? But yeah, it genuinely does taste like apple and coke, so let's hope that those flavours carry on through. So a quick cider update. The yeast has begun to wake up. It's just sort of floated to the top. There's a bit of a rim beginning to form, but not what you would call the startings of a krausen. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer, and I'll give you an update when it starts fermenting. So just a 5 hours later update. We can see that there's something beginning to happen on top. I've seen the yeast dancing around a little bit, but there's still no activity in the airlock. It's going to be a slow starter. Okay, it's the next morning. It's about 15 hours from when I put this together, and as you can see, there's very clearly a krausen. Now, there was no airlock activity whatsoever, so I've swapped bung and airlock round, and now there is. It's slow, but maybe I had a leak in the other one. So fermentation's definitely happening. Okay, so unless anything dramatic happens during fermentation, the next film you see from me will be bottling or clearing. Catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my cola cider clearing day. Yep, clearing day. Let's have a look at it. Not a bottling day, unfortunately. So this has now been in the demijohn for 25 days. It fermented for 10 days and then the rest of the time it's been sat there. I was hoping it would clear, but it hasn't. It's just stayed murky. So today I'm going to clear it with wine finings. So it's bung out. Siphoning tube in. I'm holding it in place with this clip. The bottom of the tube is just above the sediment. I'll get a little bit, but that's fine. So let's rock and roll. I can actually smell the colaness. Might have to have a little nifter of this one. Yeah, there's definitely a cola smell. It's not a strong smell, but it's there. Very, very delicate flavour-wise. I think I'm going to use the final cola thing that was left to back flavour it at bottling, and I might even put a cola bottle in each bottle. You know, why not? But that's at bottling. I'm still at clearing stage, and now I need to add the first of 2 lots of wine finings. I'm using Clear It wine finings from Young's, bottle A, then bottle B. So bottle A goes in first. I put a few drips of this in, you know, about a teaspoon or whatever. And then I've got to leave this for an hour before returning to add bottle B. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tell me that's over. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a little mix around to ensure that the cider and the finings have mixed. Now, I'm taking a gamble adding the finings because it might clear the cider and it might not. But what it might do if it does clear the cider is drag all the yeast to the bottom and then I don't get a sparkle. Sometimes I do get a sparkle when I've cleared it with finings. Sometimes I don't. That's the gamble. I'm now going to leave this for an hour and come back and then add finings B. So I'll catch you in an hour. Okay, an hour has passed. Let's have a look. And you can see that finings A have had no impact whatsoever. So now it's time to get it back into the original demijohn with finings B. So this time there's no need to siphon, I'm just going to pour it straight in as I've already racked it off of the sediment. So I'm going to pour half in and then add finings B. Okay, so finings B goes in, again, same amount as last time, thereabouts. Right, onwards. And there we go, a frothy ending. So I'm just giving this a little shake around, make sure it's all mixed. I'm pretty certain it has. Okay. So then the airlock goes back in. Okay, it's the next day. Let's have a look. And I think we can agree that this is pretty clear. So I reckon I'll be bottling this in the next couple of days. Catch you then. Morning from the kitchen, folks. Today it's my cola cider bottling day. Let's have a look at it. So here it is. It's been 3 days since I put the finings in and it is now nice and clear. So it's time for it to go from here into the bottles. I'm going to begin by adding some priming sugar into each bottle. I'm adding the equivalent of a heaped teaspoon. They're 750ml bottles, so that's what I'm kind of aiming for. Any yeast which is left in suspension within here, or within there, will hopefully find this sugar, have a little nibble, and it will slightly increase the ABV, but only a tiny amount. But what it will do is create CO2, and the CO2 will create pressure, and that's what will give it a little bit of a fizz. And I'm saying this with my fingers crossed, because I've cleared it with wine finings, and the carbonation can sometimes not work because of that, because the yeast has all been dragged to the very bottom and it won't end up in the bottles. Now this is going to be a gamble, we'll just have to see. In addition to the priming sugar, I'm also going to back flavour this by sharing out this one Mr Freeze Jubbly Cola amongst them all. And I'm going to drop a cola bottle into each one. Now this is going to be a bit like the worm in the tequila. I'm kind of hoping it'll dissolve in the bottom, but I don't think it will. But you know, it just adds that little bit of extraness to it. It's just an experiment. Let's see what happens. So a few drops of Jubbly Cola in each one. Add a little bit more flavour. Now it's time to add a cola bottle to each one. So I'm just going to obviously need to quality control the product. Taste of childhood. I can confirm. The man from Del Monte, he says bloody yes. Alright, one of these in each bottle. Then it's bung out. Siphoning tube in. I've got the tube held in place with this clip. The bottom of it is just above the sediment line, which means the first bit that comes out will be sedimenty, but that first bit is going to go into the hydrometer tube. Let's rock and roll. And into the bottles we go. Smells more like a dry cider than a cola cider at the minute, but let's see what happens now I've back flavoured a little bit. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tell me that this is over, and I've just got enough there for 5 bottles. That's 5 750s, so my 500 has not been necessary. So here are my 5 bottles. And if I pick this one up, there you can see the cola bottle in the bottom. Will it dissolve? We'll wait and see. Okay, it's time to measure the final gravity of this brew. So in goes the hydrometer. Sinks nicely. And I've finished on a final gravity of exactly 1.000. Now thanks to Toby on YouTube, I'm going to do something I haven't done before. What's in the hydrometer tube I'm going to pour into this plastic bottle. There was a little bit of sugar in the bottom of that bottle. Now I'm going to take my bottle and I'm going to squeeze it to get the air out, or some air out. And I'm going to put the lid on. And this will be an early indicator as to when carbonation is happening, because when the bottle begins to expand, if CO2 is produced, then I'll be able to see that this is carbon. Really simple, but really great and effective idea. So cheers, Toby. Okay, I need to work out the alcohol by volume of this brew. So I take the original gravity of 1.054. I deduct from that the final gravity of 1.000. And that equals 0.054, and then I multiply this figure by 131.25, and that equals a final alcohol by volume of 7%. I'm happy enough with that. Okay, now I need to bung my bottles. I've got my bungs here, they're in very hot water, just to make them a bit more malleable to push in easier. So it's simply a case of shaking the water off and using a bit of brute force. 1. And they're all in. Wow. Right, no dramas there. Next, I need to add cages, the essential safety feature, because when the carbonation happens, fingers crossed, it will create pressure, and without the cages, the bung in effect becomes a missile. Right, the bottles are a bit sticky, so I'm just going to give them a quick rinse under the tap. before labelling them. I don't want to label sticky bottles, that's a bit grim. Okay, I've made my labels up in a simple Microsoft Word template. I'm going to print these off right now. Okay, I'm just going to add my labels to the bottles. Make them look nice. Take a bit of pride and all that stuff. And here they are. Okay, these are my conditioning shelves. Just here, I've got a little thermometer, as you can see, the little silver thing there. It's connected to a thermostat plug. When the temperature of the thermometer drops below 19.5, it turns on the heater at the back of the shelves. And when it gets to 20.5, it turns off the heater. So my cola cider is going to condition on these shelves now for the next month. I might move it around, I might not leave it exactly where it is, but this is where it will be. And the conditioning process will allow the yeast to eat the sugar that I've put in there, the priming sugar, and hopefully give this a fizz. I'll put this one just there. Right. So the next film that you see will be opening and tasting in about a month's time. Catch you then, folks. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my cola cider opening night, and do you know what? I'm excited about this one. I'm always excited about this one, aren't I? So this has been in the bottle for 1 month, and let's have a look at that bung. Okay, it is tearing at the cage. This is going to be carbed. Now, I hope it's not going to spurt everywhere, but there's a chance it could happen. Definite carbonation. I just want it to look good and taste nice. Remember, I put the cola bottle in the bottom of the bottle. I cannot tell whether it's there or not. We'll just have to find out. So, here goes. Oh, this bung is dying to come out. It's going to come out as soon as I take this cage off. That bung is coming. It's like diffusing a landmine. Right, are you ready? Oh, it weren't as violent a pop as I thought it would be, but here we go. Yeah. Might as well get it in the glass. I knew that was going to happen. Well, there's undeniable sparkle. Look at that. There's nought up with that. Right, let's have a look and a listen. Right, am I getting the cola smell? To be honest, the smell is just dry cider. I need to wait for the head to dissipate a little bit. It actually looks like some kind of craft beer. Right, I'll try and get in. That's nice. There's a definite cola edge. The overarching taste is dry cider. And then you get kind of like a medium, kind of like cola, sort of like paint around the edge of your tongue. It's unbelievably gassy. A bit too gassy, if I'm quite honest. Now, if you'd given me this blind and said, what is it? I would have said, well, it's some kind of like, it's just a cider. I wouldn't have never, ever guessed it was a cola cider. In terms of the dryness, when it goes in, you think dry to start with, but then when you get that little cola sort of aftertaste, I'd go to medium dry. It's a little bit like, it's almost a bit more like ginger ale, actually, like a ginger ale cider than a cola cider. The cola's not obvious, so if I was going to do a cola flavoured one again, I think I'd look for alternative ways to flavour it. Maybe next time the slush puppy cola flavour or something like that. Anyway, it's a nice drink. It's a proper good cider drink. You can see it's got life in it. It's not clear, but do you know what? Neither is life. So I'm going to enjoy it, and I hope that you've enjoyed the film. And folks, cheers, and I'll catch you on the next brew. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.